afternoon, and thank you to be with us today. The thematic which has been chosen by Ettore members is by the community, is today to discuss not to discuss fire, because I mean fire is in the air since quite a time already now. And it's definitely here to stay. We are now all very much convinced of it. And but actually, we wanted to bring a different perspective, which maybe is not always put forward. And that's a perspective on basically how to bring together all the different actors and how to set the tempo and where to set the priorities. And we are very lucky today because we have been asking one of our member engineering to present it from their perspective. How have they discussed this fire challenge internally? What have been they are doing? What are they expecting? Which problems have been have they faced? What are they expecting from the national authorities? They're operating in Italy, for example, but also I know they are international, so they're working also in other countries. And then we will look at two different perspectives in today's webinar. We'll look at Medcom, and we will see how and which role they have taken, actually, in terms of taking fire on board. What role they assign to themselves, and how they feel they should interact with the key stakeholders in their own ecosystem, but also beyond. And finally, we have Giovanni, who's coming from ARES in Puglia. And Giovanni will bring, again, a different perspective, because they are implementers, basically. And so they are also implementing directly FHIR, and they are developing services for the citizens of their region. So that's, again, a different perspective. And we will see what it has concretely meant for them in terms of learning curve, of resource management, and so on and so forth, but also we learn about the obstacles they've been facing. And finally, after this, and I will just, slowly, I will pass the usual messages. You know, you need to be fine and to be quiet and nice. But I will not play the policeman, so everybody can speak and open his camera. So during the panel, so we have invited just 4 people. And sorry, Sarah, I couldn't find a picture of you on the web. But we will ask them to comment not only in the presentation, but also to comment on supplementary aspects. And in particular, on the incentive and the incentivization mechanism, which needs to be put in place in order to have FHIR implemented in a way which is coherent and consistent, and related to the priorities which have been decided at the national regional level.
First of all, let me quickly introduce myself. Till the end of the last year, I was the responsible for the software laboratory, which is in charge this platform we will speak in the few minutes in the presentation. And what I'm telling to you are not just words on the screen, but the last 5 years of my life. So there is really a lot of job done, and I can go in details for whatever curiosity you have about what I'm telling to you. From the beginning of this year, I changed my responsibility and am more involved in development of the business, which include strategic project, international marketing, synergy with the research department, and external companies acquisition. What was the approach for FHIR in engineering? First of all, just to explain to you that engineering in Italy has a portfolio with more than 50 products and a lot of customer. And basically every 5 years, we are forced to maintain market share, to build a new generation of product because of the changes of technology and also organization trend. And each time we decide which are the main issue to be addressed in this new generation of products. And at that time, for a set of decision, we adopted the approach to rebuild the application from the ground and have the capability to start from a web page to design a new application with all the requirements covered. And in that time, 5 years ago, when we started with this new platform, which is called the Ellipse, we have also, we are working on project in which the integration was a really critical issue because of the number of integration, the difference between one and other situation in different country. It was really a nightmare because of often the integration was built outside of the product. And for this reason, we decide the FHIR as one of the main pillar of the new solution. But for the old platform, we decide only to apply change when the opportunity arises. And as I said before, the interoperability was one of this main focus because we want to consider all integrational issue related to the platform itself. And we want to, on the field, just to make some little change to adapt already standard message produced by the application with different realities. And the reason of FHIR was also to be ready with the future tenders and marketing trend, and was really one main important aspect of this solution. And also because this platform has the goal to approach the international market using standard, and FHIR could be already another opportunity. As you can see, we have made just a cloud, word cloud about the main feature of our solution. And as you can see, there is a lot of words with are related to technological, functional, or organization aspect. But like other words, for example, cloud, mobile first, user experience, FHIR was really important inside the new feature of the new platform. This feature was built before built the application. But because at the end we realized that FHIR is really an important aspect we have covered, we can say that it's a really FHIR native solution. In this slide, there is described the ellipse architecture. I don't want to go in details, but just to underline a couple of characteristics that later implies some issue about the design and the implementation of FHIR inside the platform. And the main one is the microservice approach, which means that the application is divided in different services with implement all the stack from the front end to the business layer to the database as we just manage special aspect. And these microservices interact together to build the final application. And for example, you can see the FHIR symbol overall the components, but we have the need to interoperate this service because each of microservice manage a subset of the FHIR resource, even if they are of the same level. For example, the lab test result are separated from the vital sign and so on. How we approach the FHIR use inside the application. First of all, for what concern the integration with third-party application, we implement HAPI interface, even if to do that we have the need to make service orchestration to expose the right messages to the external system. And then when we decided to simplify the interaction with the other product, we thought that the best way to do is to manage in a FHIR native way all the stack. And that means that FHIR objects are inspirate our database model, which means that the conceptual data model is based on FHIR. For performance reason, we made some change on the physical layer to have a acceptable degree of performance level. Also, the communication between the microservice with the interact between them to provide functionality to the front end and to the external system, communicate with FHIR object. And inside the service business level, FHIR object are the basic object they use. Unfortunately, to do that, to be to reach the right performance, we have to do some extension to the model to make, for example, to redundate some information instead of send a lot of requests to the various the different services. And another example was to build some software component. The terminology service, which is one of the services we described before, is FHIR-based. And also the API of the medical device interface, which is a component that is used to connect a medical device inside an hospital with an electronic medical record, is based on FHIR messages. But not only at component model level, using FHIR in a native way, we have the capability to do some functionality more effective than in the previous solution, because we generalize some concept, and then we can provide a view, for example, with the observation of all the clinical part. Instead, in the previous version, we have a vertical vision about lab test, about vital sign, and so on. In addition, we use FHIR concept to implement the continuity of care about using object like the episode of care and so on. We have the capability to design continuous of care path in order to have to allow different physicians to collaborate together for the care of a patient. And also for what concern, for example, the privacy, using the concept of consent, organization, and so on, we can provide a model to design an application with the concept of privacy by default and by design. What are the point of attention in this part, and what is the weakness and the difficulties we found are some of that. First of all, we need at the beginning to go in details about the FHIR knowledge with a short group who designed the system at the beginning, but because the FHIR concept are all old stack, we are forced to extend the knowledge to all the people involved in implementation and deploy of the system. And sometimes it's not so easy. To adopt the FHIR in the way I've described before, we are forced to extend FHIR not just for localization, which is quite reasonable, but also to design and go towards a new organizational model, especially in the last 2 years, about the different concept for the hospitalization, the creation of new model, which not immediately are covered for the standard model itself. And also to manage synchronous interaction with connected with performance acceptable, we have to use also concept like extension, search parameters, bundle, which basically are have been built with a proprietary indication and solution, which can be different in scenarios designed by some other company or institution. What was the customer reaction to our approach? Obviously, and fortunately, there is a lot of attention about our solution, and the need to go in detail and to have further information. Even if, anyway, the application itself support FHIR in a native way. At the moment, on customer side, we have a couple of installation based on FHIR integration with third-party application. And generally, when we perform an installation, FHIR object message are inside our platform, and we have an enterprise service bus that translate the message in another format, can be HL7 to .x or some other stuff, but are really few at the moment. Anyway, we see that when there is a new project with a different profile, different standard, which is not really included in some scenario like IHE profiles, we are looking immediately to FHIR and to design together a new model for the integration. And that's really important. And also we see that the tenders, new regional project and so on, in all the case are reference to specification, to FHIR specification. That means that really the standard is on there, and we have just to understand how to make this one wheel in something that we really touch with the hands. What is the conclusion? Very quickly. So we are sure to be ready to improve the FHIR adoption in all the projects we are involved. That's true that we are aware that the new platform it's ready, but other software vendors, especially the small one in a complex integration scenario, and also ourselves with the older products to reach FHIR integration is not so easy, not immediately, and sometimes, depending on the application is built, could be complex and not expensive to reach the goal of the project itself. Anyway, I think we think the time are mature to go in the FHIR direction and to use it, especially in the new projects, and to provide, to improve the utilization should not work each one of us in their own direction, but to find a way to collaborate in order to define profiles, message, extension, which is the same in the way we can have a more efficient way to reach real standards.